Hi guys, today I'm here with Akayla again, and today we're going to be talking about how to overcome your fear foods and just challenging your fear foods and foods that are really hard for you. The first tip we have to make it a bit easier is before you eat your fear food, remind yourself why you're doing it, why you want to recover from your eating disorder, and what recovery will bring. And just as you're eating your fear foods, just try and keep focused on your goals. And something you can try is to do like a cost-benefit analysis and write like the pros and cons of eating the food and the pros and cons of not eating the food. And I think you'll see that it's always much more beneficial for you if you do eat the food. And so that can make eating it a lot easier.
So the next thing that you can do to make it a little bit easier is to write out a list of your fear foods and sort of categorize them as like your easier ones all the way to your hardest fear foods. So you can start with the easier ones and then work your way up.
So the next tip is to pair a more challenging food with a less challenging food. It can help to change like as few variables as possible. If you're challenging a really hard food, just have it with something safer. That can make it a bit easier to kind of ease into eating it.
So number 4 is to, if you know it's going to be a really challenging food, to ask for support, to talk to someone who you know will be able to support you and who you trust.
And someone who can like eat the food with you and just be there with you while you're eating it. And even if it's not like a super challenging food, but if you just want a bit more support and connection, and think it would help make it easier.
Yeah, even if you're just having a bad day, sometimes that can be really, really helpful.
And then the next thing is going off of the last one, and that is to let your supports know what you need. Do you want distraction during the meal? Do you want them to talk you through it after the meal? Do you want to check in? Do you need them to just stay with you after the meal for post-meal support so you don't engage in behaviors? Just let your supports know what you need and what will be most helpful for you.
The next one is something you can try if it gets really difficult, and that's distraction during the meal or after the meal. So during that time where you might have increased anxiety or feel an increased urge to engage in compensatory behaviors, then it can be really helpful to have someone help with distraction. Whether you do it alone, you can be watching TV shows, reading a book, or
you can like call a friend, go out somewhere,
play a game.
Yeah, distraction can just be super helpful when you're like starting a fear food, and just like if it's really difficult, distraction can make it more doable. So the next point is just like knowing that you have to eat these foods to recover. You cannot recover if you continue avoiding these foods. Like, it's essential that you do need to eat these foods. So challenging all the thoughts and fears around these foods is super important, like obviously by eating them, but also just like after you eat these foods, recognize that like all your fears and all these worst case scenarios didn't happen. Show yourself by eating these foods that your fears won't come true.
And that you are capable of it.
Yeah.
That you can in fact eat these foods and you will be okay.
And just remember that like there's no exact right or wrong way or way you have to go about eating fear foods. Do what works for you and what keeps you moving in the right direction.
There's also no timeline, so make sure that you're not putting yourself on an exact schedule as to when you have to do it, because sometimes it's just too hard that day.
And everyone moves at different paces, so it's okay to take it slow. Just do what's manageable.
Another really important thing to do is to make sure that you avoid labeling your foods as either good or bad. There are no good and bad foods. There really are just food.
Food is food, and so try and just avoid like the good and bad labels, because those are not helpful. And every food can be a part of a balanced diet. So try not to just like shove them into those categories and that all or nothing thinking. So another thing that's pretty important is practicing self-care and having a lot of self-compassion around these times. Just like recognize how big this thing that you're doing is, and like how much strength it takes and how awesome it is and how it's getting you closer to recovery. Just take time to like celebrate that and acknowledge that for yourself and be proud of yourself for what you're doing, because it's really hard. Like around these meal times and stuff, just practice a lot of self-care and just really take care of yourself and give yourself what you need.
So consistency is key. So make sure that you continue to eat these foods once you start. Even if you challenge it once and you're like, yeah, okay, this is okay, make sure that you continue to eat that food. Otherwise it just falls right back into that fear food category, and it makes it so much more difficult to keep moving forward.
Like once you introduce something, don't cut it out or start avoiding it again. Like you just have to continue to eat it, and it'll get easier every single time.
Another thing to keep in mind is making sure that you're not pushing yourself too hard at any given time. So don't overdo it, because a lot of the time when you overdo it, it can have really adverse reactions later on.
And it can actually set you back if you're not ready for it. And that's not us telling you not to challenge yourselves.
Yeah.
That's just saying just start small and with what's manageable, or else it can be, just set you back.
So work your way up.
Our last tip is sometimes it is helpful to really plan in challenges and plan to have a dessert one night, but also sometimes it's good to be spontaneous And if you want ice cream, go out for ice cream. If someone offers you dessert, just go for the dessert. Your challenges and fear foods don't need to be planned into your meal plan, whatever. A huge part of, I think, recovery is like spontaneity and being able to just eat those things. And I actually find it easiest to just challenge myself spontaneously, because then for the day or hours beforehand, I'm not just thinking about it and getting myself all worked up. It's just kind of, it's there, it happens, and then I'm moving on. So sometimes spontaneity can be really good when challenging fear foods. So that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed and found this helpful. Bye guys!